Hey everybody, it's Ryan. One of the things that Mike and I often talk about during the show is about how fitness is an important part of our adult lives and the hobbies that we take part in today. When Graham Polakoff decided to come on the show and share some of the things that he's learned while building a high-end sports performance business in Birmingham, Michigan, we seized the opportunity pretty quickly. The interview ended up being a lot more about creating something that's a new idea and establishing something around it. It was a blast talking to him in a place where we both used to live in way different circumstances than we're in today. We hope you enjoy the interview as much as we enjoyed learning more about Graham. Can you hear us?
I can hear you clearly.
What's going on, man?
What's up, Graham?
How are you?
I'm great, man. I'm great. How you doing?
I'm good. And you're in Hawaii?
Yeah.
Full time?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Thank you. You heard the trepidation in my voice. Sometimes it's a hard way to meet people. They're like, the one thing I know about you, I already dislike you. Really? So moving on from that. Well, yeah, because just this time of year, right? Like, oh yeah, not so much now. There's still some like optimism and like, oh, colors, leaves. The
holidays, sure.
Yeah, but like come March, nobody wants to be my friend, you know.
Maybe that inspires some change in those people.
True. Instead of being mad about it. It's a little shocking that people are fucking pissed about that.
I try not to rub it in. Well, not pissed, but it's like it's just a tough first. It's a tough first call, right? Like, or like first. It's just, oh wow, I wish I was there. I hate you.
I find that weather is like the ultimate Midwesterner small talk too. So like no matter where you're from or what time of year it is, you're gonna like just the first opening sentences are like, oh, it's cold today, you know.
No, you're right.
Nice.
Every morning in the gym,
yeah,
5:30.
Right.
That and a football game the night before.
Yeah.
Two things keep shit rolling.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, yeah, like we can definitely throw that out there, but we all know there's sensitivities when it comes to the sporting events, right? So like,
oh boy,
they're interested, but they may be interested in all the things you hate the most. You know what I mean? We're all like-minded people here though. So that's very comforting.
Well, I find that Spartan fans tend to be a little bit more rigid, at least momentarily.
Today would have upset you more. They almost lost to Georgia today. They're up by 30 and it got within 2.
Oh, wow.
Man. I might not have been home been able to go home.
I think it's probably best for me to just not tune in until like February. Because I can't do this. I can't ride this roller coaster. Like that freshman Georgia's got this freshman named Anthony Edwards. He's like top 3 recruit, you know. He dropped 37 on us today.
Ooh, nice.
Please introduce our guest.
All right. Today we got Graham Polakoff, which is, I'm really excited to have welcome Graham. I'm actually kind of surprised that I think you're the 14th episode of the season. I'm surprised that it took us that long to get you on. But there's a little bit of special part of today. And I'm kind of excited today to introduce Graham Polakoff from Omni Kinetics is his company. But the area where we're sitting today is actually in the living room where we met totally randomly, I think from either Craigslist or Facebook. From Craigslist.
I wasn't on Facebook yet.
That's right. Yeah, it was probably it was pre-Facebook. It was probably what, 07, 06?
I don't know if that was pre-Facebook, but Graham's was a late adopter, maybe. Yeah.
I avoided it at all costs.
Fair enough.
I was actually on, what was the other one?
MySpace. Yeah. So we met during MySpace days in this living room that we're sitting in today. This home has since been turned into like an Airbnb. My wife and I owned it when we moved to Atlanta. We've been in Atlanta for about 8 years. And so it was kind of cool to seize the opportunity to do this interview back here today. The home is rented by a bunch of other people, but we use it during the holidays or we come home during the summer. And the thing that I'm most excited to talk to Graham about today is a little bit above and beyond some of the phenomenal things that he does with athletes, which primarily I'm sure you'll at least introduce yourself in talking about. But the way that living the message that you bring to the people that you inspire carries through your life, right? So I think we kind of met in a bit of a challenging time, right? You had decided to go back to school. You know, I had a job that could hardly pay enough money to pay the mortgage in my home. And so I had to put an ad in fucking Craigslist to find somebody. And so a bunch of people came over. Some of them were weird. Most of them were weird. And then up walked this dude in a Spartans hat. And I'm going to turn it over here. I know it's a little bit of a long introduction, but up walks this dude in a Spartans hat. I too am a Michigan State Spartan, as our listeners know. And here you were. So welcome, man. I'm really excited to have you here and have you back.
It's awesome. Awesome. Love sitting here. Got the Vizsla dog next to me. The inspiration for my dog at home.
Yeah.
It's good to be back.
Really? So wait, was that the first Vizsla you met?
So not Carter, but Silvio.
Silvio, yes.
Silvio. Oh my God. Him and I, we hit it off right away after I let him run out of the house by accident. Had to chase him down. And, Silvio would
roommate let the dog out.
Yeah, it was great.
I don't think that was so much of the roommate's fault as much as the dog. He was a known absconder.
Oh yeah. He gave me lots of love. Fell in love with him, fell in love with that breed, and just waited to get one. It was awesome.
That's amazing, man. I don't know if Ryan's ever told you, but it's a similar, like, there's something about Vizslas. I don't know.
Best.
If they imprint on you, you gotta go out and form your own relationship with one. That's a pretty awesome happenstance introduction way of meeting you two. I mean, it's worth noting the date. You said that was around like 2000 and what?
I want to say it was 2007. So I had just taken a job downtown at DMC and needed a place to live. So
yeah, man.
Just fell into each other's arms.
Yeah. Yeah, it was weird times. I mean, we were young. I mean, we always joke about how old we are, but like we were young. I think
15 years ago, basically.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
a lot younger.
Yeah. I had 2 mortgages on this home. It was like during the time when you could borrow a short-term loan to pay a 20% down payment on a long-term loan. And I, like pretty much everybody else at that point in time, bought a house. And I had a girlfriend that I bought the house with. Shout out to our listeners. Not great advice to buy a home with a girlfriend. So within 12 months, I bought the house twice. And then I met Graham. And like, it was, I think that the thing that tied us like real early on is that we both wanted to do something that was like outside of what we could imagine.
No doubt.
And luckily for us, both of those things were entrepreneurial kind of endeavors, right?
Yeah. Well, you were you were in the middle of that energy drink.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And I had just, failed at my first attempt.
So once upon a time in that same time frame, Anna, who at that point in time we were newly acquainted, really worked with an energy drink company. It was kind of like a Red Bull product.
Yeah.
It was called Aqua Tea, and I'm sure it's not still around. But it was ahead of its time.
Did you guys rebrand though too?
We didn't rebrand. We expanded the product line to include this other actually a supplement that's used today called I'm going to butcher the name, but it's called Garcia Kona Boba or something like this, but it's like a fat loss supplement.
That's right.
And it was totally organic and it had whey protein suspended in it. So, I mean, as a fellow meathead, Mike, you could understand at this point in time, like this product.
It's out still.
It's out still.
Yeah. I just found the website. Yeah. It's still out.
It's still out. Okay.
Yeah.
So, wow. I wonder if I could buy that anywhere.
I don't know.
Oh man,
that's hilarious.
There are a couple of cans from 2007 that Anna still has, but that was like the gist of our relationship, right? We were we were working on the shit. It didn't work out, as you can imagine. I mean, I think that we were easily edged out by like the 5-hour energy market. That's when that came forward. Yeah. And then there were some like kind of cultural differences between us and the owner of the company, which, inevitably when something unravels or doesn't make enough money, seems like it happens.
those things start to become a lot more prevalent when the bills are harder to pay. Eh?
Right. Is that when you started working with spinal cord injury?
Yes.
That it was that early on, right?
Yeah. So I basically took a job at DMC to finish up one more class that I needed to get to go to PA school.
That's right.
Finished that class, got into PA school, and then promptly got kicked out after the first semester. Remember? Okay.
I remember. Again, we've been through some shit together in these walls that we're sitting in. But I remember I was thinking there was a whole year, but I remember that it was
just the summer.
Yeah.
So I spent that year living here, working at DMC.
Mm-hmm.
I got into PA school, started in May. Pretty much kick ass.
Yeah.
Supposedly you had to have B's in every class. Couldn't have lower than an 80.
That's right.
I got A's. I got several B's. I had a teacher who just didn't really care for me. And there was myself and 5 others.
See those cultural differences. They're coming up again when times are tough.
5 others that in one of our classes, we got a C. I got a 79.75.
I remember that. Right.
I was 0.25% away, like one question on one test.
But that dropped, yeah.
And so we all had to go in and like meet with the board or all of the professors. And they let all of the other kids through. And they said I needed to sit out a year. I would have to remediate all of the classes, even the ones that I got A's in. I wouldn't have to pay for them, but they would make me take the classes again. And
so they wanted to redshirt you at
basically.
PA
I got fucking redshirted. Yeah,
that's fucked up.
I just sit out the whole year.
Yeah,
went back to DMC and kind of wound up back in orthopedics, which I fucking hated.
Yeah,
but they also had just started the Sports Performance Academy,
and
I'm like, this is what I want to do. So I spent my time in the rehab world, outpatient rehab, hospital system, like just billing units. Like it was just horrible. Like factories, many patients as you could get through. 15-year-old who tore his ACL was sitting next to the 75-year-old knee replacement guy doing the same fucking exercises. I'm like, this doesn't seem right.
Right.
Yeah.
While I was there, that's when like first kind of inspired me. Well, I'd always wanted to be involved with golf, right? I'd already failed a couple of years before that, trying to get golf fitness going. There was no such thing as golf fitness.
Right.
Very few people thought about it. And then I remember I was in that room right next door here watching a DVD of Gray Cook. Remember I sent you that Google?
Yes.
And I'm watching this DVD of him explaining his functional movement screen. And I'm like, this makes so much fucking sense. Like, I can't believe it. I'm like, why am I 10 years into my profession? And I don't know what the hell's going on here. Like it was just like a sledgehammer to the face. And then he also says that he sits on the advisory board for the Titleist Performance Institute. And I'm like, holy shit, there's people out there just like me, right? I'm like Pinocchio, right? I felt alive. It was amazing. And so that kind of, started that process all over again of golf, fitness. But now that there was a foundation being laid by other people that I could, step onto.
A little bit more of a path, at least.
Oh, absolutely.
Was that your first introduction into functional movement? I mean, I feel like it sounds like a cliche now.
It is
15 years later because it's so focused. Everything is trying to be so focused on it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I mean, and it was interesting that 7 or 8 months that I spent at DMC working with spinal cord recovery patients was actually probably the first introduction into, you got someone who has a spinal cord injury and the first things you get them doing are rolling and crawling and going back to the foundation, the fundamental movement patterns of growth and development.
Sure.
And then I'm sitting here watching this DVD of Gray Cook and he's talking about how these patterns are valuable in assessing and they're valuable in restoring for high level athletes. And I'm like, holy shit, this just makes so much damn sense. And it was just happenstance that I fall into these different arenas and they all kind of come together.
Just to, you guys know each other well. So you just jumped into like halfway through your relationship. I want to,
like I do, Michael.
I do. I love Graham already. This is my first meeting of him, but
it's kind of like the honeymoon phase though, that first year was hot and heavy.
Exactly. It sounds like you guys went through a lot.
We did.
I think it would be, I'm stoked that you're eager to jump into those failures, but I'm like, dude, you're obviously super well educated. I like that you swear a little bit, but you're talking about medicine and stuff. So give people a little bit of like, where the hell did you come from, man? You went to school originally for what?
So my undergrad was at Northern Illinois.
Yeah.
And much like the rest of my life, I ran into a lot of walls and kept having to go around them or over them or under them. I was not a good student. Originally, I went there to be a physical therapist.
Gotcha.
This is when, your parents and the counselor at school were like, oh yeah, this would be good for you. The baby boomers are going to be old here soon.
Was it because you were into sports or because you were into like biology class? Like, why do you think why was it not your really interest? They kind of pushed you?
Oh yeah. Loved sports. I knew everything going on. I knew every trend of every sports team out there. Mm-hmm. The only like 24-hour news channel, they'd have that sports ticker going across.
Sure.
Just watch. Like I knew everything that was going on in sports. That was my life.
You were academic about sports though, right? Like, so, I mean, in high school though, you got by, I mean, grades wise,
B's and C's.
College was happening, right? No matter what, it was in your future.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
So physical therapy was just your first, like, this makes sense. It'll make everyone happy, right?
Yeah. Somebody said, go there. I didn't know what else to do. I was lost soul.
Right.
So went there, fell out. And then, a couple guys that I met in school, good buddies. He was in athletic training and he's like, this is a good path to go down.
Okay.
Got into that and realized like, I didn't want to be in the training room, just doing rehab. And then when I found out that you can make all of like $30,000 and work 90-hour weeks in season, I'm like, this sounds horrible.
Yeah, sure. It's a lot of work.
I wanted to work hard and make money.
Right.
And that was definitely, you're going to work your butt off. But money was like 30 years down the road if you were lucky.
Yeah.
Okay. But that was still at like Northern Illinois.
So I get through my 4 years. I graduate in 4 years. But in my final year, I'm like, I'm going to be a doctor. I want to be an orthopedic surgeon.
Okay.
So I stayed for a fifth year after I graduated, but stayed for a fifth year, took the basic classes I needed for med school. And then come wintertime, I'm just fried, so burnt out.
Okay.
I remember coming up to my,
you kind of, so just for our listeners, you graduate from college, is it kinesiology?
Yep.
Like just from the focus, heavy focus on learning to become a PT, but then just like, in some weird other parts of our education, you have to take a certain number of classes so that you could take the MCAT and then apply to medical school.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. So I needed a few more classes, started those, got all A's that semester, but I was just fried.
Okay.
Christmas time, I'm fried. Actually come up to Okemos to go to an MSU basketball game. Mm-hmm. Tell my aunt and uncle, I'm like, I'm quitting. I hate this. I can't do this.
You know what? I'm sorry. I didn't even know. Where did you grow up, Graham?
Chicago, western suburbs of Chicago.
Gotcha. Okay. So Northern Illinois makes sense. What's in Okemos though? Family?
Yep. Family. That's why I'm a Spartan fan since the mid-80s.
Okay.
I've been through it all. I was the only jerk wearing green and white in Chicago in the 80s.
I bet.
Shout out Tico Duckett.
TJ or Tico, the OG. I like that. Was he Kalamazoo grad?
I think those kids are from Kalamazoo area for sure.
Are you implying they're not grads?
No, I wasn't implying that they're not grads. No. I'm sure they graduated if they made it to Michigan State.
They were really good at football, bro. They didn't necessarily need to graduate. All right. All
right. Listen. It's easy to go down that path. These are episodic podcasts. So it might be summertime post Antonio area when somebody's listening to this.
Now. You're right. You're right. And I got Graham to take me all the way back to Okemos. He's basically your semester into your preliminary med school.
Still don't know what to do. Go back, finish that whole year. I take the other classes.
Shit, you went back though.
Oh yeah. I didn't know what else to do.
Well, sure.
So I'd already paid for the semester, took my MCAT, I don't remember what the scores were. I think the scoring system's different now than it was back then, but I scored well enough to get into some places. And I literally started like looking to maybe get jobs as like a medical sales rep, drug sales rep.
Sure.
But they're like, go sell copiers for a couple of years and then come back. So nobody wanted to.
Yeah. But that was a weird time. I was also in that similar market where the dream job was almost like it was capital equipment or pharmaceutical sales. And guys are like getting a Ford Taurus.
Yeah, buying houses.
And I say primarily guys, right? Like getting a Ford Taurus, getting a garage full of drugs, buying a house, and then working as a pharmaceutical rep. And then if you were good enough, you could go to like a company like Stryker or somebody who sold like actual capital equipment, which would be MRI machines, those types of things.
Yeah, but you're in your, I mean, you're 23, 24. You've been pretty successful, but you're like, and I'm putting words into your mouth here, but you just don't like what's ahead. You know, I mean, you don't want to be in physical therapy, and you're like, man, I'm not going to be a doctor. Shit gets scary at that point.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I don't know what to do. I'm tired. I'm burnt out. I don't want school. I don't think I'm smart enough. My study habits got a lot better in college, but like, how am I going to make it through?
Yeah.
That's all I can think of. I barely made it through the semester, even though I got all A's, and like kicked ass in some of these classes. But I'm like, how am I don't know if I have the energy to get through 4 years of med school and specialize. And like, when you're 23, 7 years down the road feels like forever.
And you had no passion for it, right? Like, I mean, sorry, it just feels like some of these things you had been kind of checking off other people's boxes, right? Like when you were talking about golf earlier, that's why I'm glad we brought it back here, because it's a very different version of you.
Oh, absolutely.
Like it sounds like you're still kicking ass, man. Anybody looking and talking about Graham, man, like little do they know you're sitting there going, man, I don't know what the hell I'm doing next.
It's easy to be on that standard path of success, I think, especially if you're smart enough to check the boxes. It's easy to color the passion in afterward, I think. Yeah. A little bit.
Yeah. I don't necessarily know if I was checking other people's boxes, but there were just boxes there to check, right? Like, go be a lawyer, go be a doctor, I come from, family, smart people, very successful. Some of them were entrepreneurs. And I think that's my passion was actually always in becoming that entrepreneur. I remember the first time when I was probably third or fourth grade, somebody asked me what I wanted to do when I grew up. And at the time, my dad was doing something incredibly unique. Nobody on the planet was doing it. He was, before you could go into car dealerships and buy all the extra stuff, like he had custom rims, like in the early mid 80s. Like no one had custom rims for cars, custom jewelry that he was designing and having made. And then he got into designing watches, Corvette watches based on the wheel of the Corvette. And that's what really, there was a 3, 4, 5 year span where that was work for him.
Do you remember those watches, Mike?
I'm thinking of the spoke wheel, right?
Yeah. I mean, I remember you showed me that watch, and like, so Graham's father is the proprietor of like, they're a big part. If you're from Metro Detroit and you're listening to this podcast, you will remember, maybe we'll get an image for like the social media or something like that. But like, it's definitely a distinct part. It was probably like the 90s Corvette rim.
Oh, absolutely.
I want to Google it.
It's a pretty famous piece of jewelry.
Google
from like our
Roadmaster design road wheel watch. You'll see some cool stuff.
I'm sorry to have interrupted, but I remember like when someone asked me what I wanted to do as a kid, I'm like, I want to go work with my dad. Yeah, sure.
Right. He slept until like 9 or 10, stayed up till like 2 or 3. Like he was a night owl. That's where he was creative. At that point, he had also written a couple children's books, like just like super, super creative, very entrepreneur-like. My grandfather had a lot of entrepreneur blood in him. He was actually one of the first owners of McDonald's, like within the first like 10 or 15 owners of McDonald's back in Chicago in the 50s and 60s, whenever that started.
Like what point did you pivot to say, I'm not going to be just an entrepreneur. I'm going to work into like that. I'm going to work in healthcare.
Trying to figure out a way to merge that healthcare and sports was always seemed like a natural fit.
Okay. That frames my question better than I think I did. So thanks.
I think I'm a very nurturing kind of caring person. Like it's definitely, I have my mother's aspect of that. Like I'm I want to take care of people. I want them to feel good. And then with my love of sports, it was just, try to figure out, where those two come together. Physical therapy, again, at the time didn't make sense. Being a doctor didn't make sense. And maybe it was because I have a work ethic, but I didn't want to work that hard. I don't know.
Well, because you're like all around the passion.
Yeah.
Right. You're pushing the buttons of the passion.
Yeah, man. You grow up seeing your dad be successful at something he is obsessed with, right? Like that was his love in his life was that work. And you're doing something again. And by other people's boxes, what I meant, it wasn't that your parents laid out that life for you. It was more so things that everyone else would say, yeah, I'm doing great, but you just didn't have that thing that you were missing it.
Yeah. Sports and golf was too. I mean, you get to college, start in college, and Tiger Woods comes on the scene.
Yeah,
and and golf as a kid was a big part of my life too. One of those books that my dad wrote was actually based on Arnold Palmer, and so I grew up in this Arnold Palmer, crazy house. My father's not big into idolizing athletes, but Arnold Palmer, I mean,
it's more than a golfer.
Yeah, and so that guy, and he always was kind of that person in golf. Obviously, Tiger Woods comes along, and now golf is just stoked. I mean, those last couple of years in school, we snuck out and played so much golf. Me and my roommates, oh my God, I used to ride my bike up with my golf bag on my back like it was bow and arrows, like to the golf course to meet my roommates there. They would already be out. They had the car out. I had a bike.
Sure.
So I'd ride a couple miles like through campus with the golf bag on my back. I was the goofball doing that. And
what kind of courses were you playing back then?
Oh, they were just the public track up in DeKalb.
Okay.
We played it. I mean, we paid $300 or $400. I don't even know where we got the money from, but got our year-long passes, and we would play hundreds of rounds a year.
So you would go and just do loop after loop after loop.
Oh, absolutely.
You're a member at a golf club, which is cool, right? When you're in college, like that's kind of a thing.
Absolutely.
And go and run loop after loop after loop.
We'd play forever. Sometimes you'd play 3 rounds in a day.
I'm bringing this up as an intentional segue because I remember the first time I ever came across anything tying together yoga and golf was at MSU. And it was like in the state news. And at that time, Graham, I don't know, like my background's in biomechanics. So, similar area, just a different route. But I remember coming across this article that was talking about the concepts of, stretching but like not in the typical athletic way, like it was just a unique kind of fork in the road and like a marriage of these things that I had interest in. But it wasn't until I saw like they're getting the golf team, they're forcing them to participate in yoga for all these like range of motion and things like that and the added benefits of it. And again, this is like, early 2000s. So there's no football players or basketball players. At that time, I don't even think I knew what the word Pilates meant. You know what I mean? So like, it was just
Pilates for sure.
It was a lot more primitive. I feel like, dude, that was only 15 years ago, but think about how big of a change. And I mean, guys like you, sorry, I'm not trying to say you're teaching yoga to golfers, but what I'm getting at is just the functional and the various capacities. And guys like you have been pretty friggin' crucial in helping like not only elite athletes, but like normal people appreciate the value of that stuff too.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, 15, 20 years ago, fitness was not a part of the golf dialect.
Golf was like an old man's game that gave you this like perspective of exercise. And then there were younger people who played golf because it was just their passion, right? Sure. And then at some point you made a transition from being able to afford to carry your clubs to being able to afford to ride in a golf cart.
For sure. No, I was going to say, even back then in, 04, 05, if any of the golfers were lifting weights, it was just old school bench press, curl, lat pull down, leg press, Yeah, the functionality and the carryover was very little.
Sure.
I was still probably, when I was lifting myself, I was probably doing the old school meathead workouts. But intuitively, I knew, especially working with these athletes in the training room, that the rehab and the strengthening was the carryover wasn't there. Like most of the people weren't getting healthy quickly,
right,
and getting out of pain. And, I was following the rehab protocols. And then I sit there and I watch this video and the explanation. I mean, nobody does a better job of explaining things, in my opinion, than Greg Cook. He's just fascinating to listen to. But so his explanation was it was so simple. And it was like, why aren't we practicing physical therapy like this? Why aren't we practicing rehab like this? Why aren't we practicing strength training like this? It was just such a eye opener from that perspective. I'm like, let's do this. Let's do this. This is going to make everybody better.
Okay. So, I mean, you're in the field, but sorry to keep focusing, but did that video, did that change your life?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I remember this time. Yeah.
100. I remember where I was sitting on an old school computer, watching this, it was basically a PDF slide on, or a PowerPoint slide on a DVD. And I'm like,
but suddenly it was just like, boom, this is it.
You had this aura. I remember it because it was here, right? And, it was transformational for a lot of reasons. But I remember how excited you were about this weird thing and not really knowing enough to be excited with you, but kind of like trusting you enough in our short friendship to understand that, like, oh man, this guy who I really know and am starting to know really well, who gets it, right? Like I knew enough about the way that you trained athletes to understand that you were making a difference in your patients. Hey, thanks for taking time to listen to Mike and I today. I wanted to talk to you just for 1 second about reviewing the podcast on your podcast channel. So whether you listen to us on Spotify, iTunes, Google, or wherever it might be, take 1 second, go out there, give us some stars, give us some words about a review. We'd really appreciate, and it helps us get new listeners. Thanks. I think we do have a culmination of your background, but now what does your business do? Or maybe a little bit more like what makes it tick, or what are the most, crowning achievements of your company now?
Sure. I would say that Omni Kinetics, in its, from the 10,000 foot view we're a holistic health and wellness, organization, trying to basically taking that Titleist Performance model, bringing as many professionals together under that roof so they can actually communicate, right? They bring all different aspects and different viewpoints, but that common goal of getting that patient or that client moving better, feeling better, and out the door, or at least so they don't have to rely on you as quickly as possible, right? Which is totally the opposite of what, a lot of physical therapy is these days, right? It's you get that script for 3 times a week for 4 weeks, and damn it, we're going to use every one of those sessions because we're going to get paid for it. Right. And the model that I looked at, it was like, I want to get these people so healthy, so quick that they don't need me, but that they want to stay with me because we've got the best program. Right. I don't want that person to have to come to physical therapy and then they're like, oh yeah, I'm on my way to see the chiropractor afterwards. And I've got to work with my trainer tomorrow. And I've also got the acupuncturist doing some stuff. And I've got a massage at my house on Friday. And I'm like, nobody's communicating. Everybody's getting paid. This person thinks they're doing the right thing because that's all they know. Years later, they're still dealing with the same shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, so Omni Kinetics, we get people in the door, and for the most part, they stay with us because if something comes up, I've got a great chiropractor that's under the same roof, right? He's got a different LLC, different business, but I know we work similarly, and I know I can be like, hey, this is what's going on with so-and-so. Let's figure this out. And right now we're working together. And if it doesn't get, if that person doesn't get healthy fast with him, we call another guy up. Like, let's get, like, what are we missing here? Right. Find that missing link, because there's always a missing link. And I think back to, 15 years ago, I was just looking at the pain. We were never looking at the solution. And that missing link is often so far away from the area that's hurt, right? Like, it could be your ankle. For a golfer, your ankle from 30 years ago, you sprained your ankle. It doesn't move for shit, but it also doesn't hurt. Right. But you can't balance on that leg. You can't pass a sobriety test on that leg. Right. But you're a golfer, you're a pitcher. So now your shoulder gets screwed in the deal.
Yeah.
You'll be lucky if they look at your elbow or your T-spine or your neck. They're sure as hell not looking at your hips and your knees and your ankles.
You've been compensating for 20 years on it.
Oh, forever.
Right. Well, you lost that mobility a decade ago.
Absolutely.
And
lost that mobility 20 minutes into your injury.
Yeah.
And it's functional. All those compensations are functional. They're just not efficient.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Efficiency is, that's longevity. That's durability.
Right.
But it's all functional because you survive that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So, Graham, how do people come to you? Are they getting doctor referrals, or you get people limping in off the street?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
Absolutely. Our biggest referral source is word of mouth. Somebody who's been dealing with an injury for 10 years literally feels better in 10 minutes. And within 10 days, they're like, I can't believe how good I feel.
Sure.
So they're telling their friends, they're telling their family.
And I'm sorry, Graham, but you're not I hope you have an answer for this, but I'm just postulating here. But like, man, I grew up playing sports. We all grew up playing sports. Golf. And I've learned recently surfing. Like it's beyond an activity. It's beyond an interest. It's beyond a passion. Like it is, people throw around the word junkie. People throw around the word addict. Like, what the hell is it about? I mean, there's no parallels with surfing and golf. But like, why are people so freaking crazy about golf? Like, what is golfing hit in your brain that like shooting free throws and doing layups doesn't, right? Like, I mean, everyone wants to do better at golf.
Forever. Even the guy that goes out and shoots 59
wants to shoot 58.
Right.
Absolutely. They come off and they love what they just did, but they perseverate over the one stroke they missed, right?
It's so true.
Because the perfect round is really 54.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly. So close.
You can somehow pull that off.
Right.
So it's an amazing sport. I mean, if you've played it a lot, it seems so simple, right? The ball's sitting right there. It's incredibly complex. Baseball is interesting because the guy on offense is actually throwing the ball at your head.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the guy in defense supposedly has the ball and he's throwing it at your head. You're on offense and you're trying not to get hit.
And baseball inspires fanatics, but not in the same way.
Sure. A flat club and that round ball, and the smallest little degree that you move that club, it totally changes what happens.
Like, to me, anyone who doesn't appreciate the technical difficulty of golf, like either has never really tried to move their body in any way or hasn't tried golf. But like, to me, it's what the hell is it in the brain? Like, because why don't people just quit?
You're saying that there's more fanatical golf fans, like players.
I think so, man.
Than
activities that older people participate in.
Yeah, no, you're right. Maybe like fishing is also similar. There's a bucket list of those, man.
Well, one of the things is accessibility, right? Not everyone can fish whenever they want. Most people that live in the continental United States, would you say, are within an hour of golf?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
Or is that a really ignorant Midwestern thing to say? Like,
I never thought about it that way, but for sure, most people in the United States, within reason, certainly the most populous areas of the United States.
I don't know about like in the Dakotas and Wyoming, but maybe
within an hour.
I don't know. Yeah,
maybe not specifically within an hour, but for the most part, yes. Yeah, so maybe there's something to golf like hunting, in which there's also, because it's a masculine. What you were talking about, at least a little bit, is like a little bit masculine, and there's a little bit of like this permissiveness in which when like the golf guys get together, they can do what they want to do, right? But that doesn't explain the drive for the absolute perfection, which a lot of guys really have, differently than other things. Maybe climbers are similar. I know some people who climb outdoors,
that just
and they're
like
similar to those fanatical golfers.
Almost like, and again, it's the thinnest line, right? Like between it being unhealthy. That healthiness is borderline unhealthy. And I'm not just rambling about golf here. I'm bringing it up because, Graham, you're a genius.
Genius.
You're real good at like therapy and kinesiology and all these other things that maybe people don't appreciate exactly what it is. But what they do appreciate is that you're a sports fanatic and you found a way to educate yourself. And you stuck around, you hung in there long enough to find a way to tie those things together. Like, dude, that's not a given, man.
think there was a persona amongst us when the economy, and we talk too much about the economy, but when, there was a situation where a lot of people were losing their homes because they were losing their jobs. And there were people that we used to know that, unfortunately there was some people were taking their lives. This kind of started to happen a little bit. It was really crazy to have gone through those times. Everything that doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? I can't help but think that some of that played into it, right? But you were a little bit more pre-programmed to deal with it. Do you think about that now? Do you think much about those times? But how do you see those times now? Like, what lens do you see those through when you think about the grit and the change?
I look at it as they were all necessary, right?
Okay.
I look at every one of those stones. Sometimes you don't make it to the next stone all the way, but it's they were all necessary to get to that spot. And I feel like even the stone I took that leap 3 years ago and fell into this facility in Birmingham. And it was probably the scariest of all the stones. Because
that was a big one. Yeah.
I went from zero overhead to taking on the rent in downtown Birmingham, and it was nuts. Thankfully my wife is amazing. Like I'm sure in the back of her mind, like, this is the stupidest thing you've ever done, but I'll support you. Like, she's great like that. And, she allowed me to take that initial leap leaving DMC. We were very fortunate. We got into a foreclosure because of the downturn in the economy.
Right.
Got an awesome house that cost us nothing. I mean, the house cost me less than my apartment was at the time. And so it allowed me to take that initial leap. But then for 4 or 5 years, I didn't have any overhead. If times were bad, it was no big deal. I wasn't having to pay rent. And then I'm in this transition period, and all of a sudden someone's like, "Hey, do you want to take on the, a $9,000+ rent in downtown Birmingham?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." Mm-hmm. My wife has been the best cornerman, best cutman I ever, could have ever asked to be around. She's supported me and encouraged me the whole time. And, I just look at every one of those steps or those missteps that were just necessary.
Sure.
Right. Just, and, I'll look for the next, step to take, and not sure if it's stable or not, but we're going to take it. It's just how I guess I like to live.
Yeah.
The stumbles are always rosier in hindsight. But you just seem like a positive person. It's nice to hear you speak of your wife. I can imagine her strength, right? Like they sit back and they support us while they watch us potentially throw everything away. Oh
yeah, no, she's amazing. She took bigger, harder steps way younger than I had to. I mean, she moved out of her house when she was like 16 or 17, living on her own. Like I've had people supporting me the whole way. Like she hasn't had that. So she's way stronger than I am.
Amazing.
She's awesome.
Good for you guys. Any little ones?
One. Yep. 5-year-old. He's about all we can take. The 5-year-old and Vishla, they're plenty.
No, that's plenty. I can imagine.
Yeah, they're great.
Man, I cannot believe that Alec is 5 already. How old? So I guess if you just somehow tuned in or you fast forwarded past the opening, Graham has a Vishla that's actually from the same breeder as my dogs. But how old is Clancy?
Clancy will be 8 right after Christmas.
Okay. So he's not really slowed down very much. The thing about Vishlas are they don't.
If there's a reason to run, he's going to run. He's slowed down. He likes sitting more.
Right.
But if there's a reason to run, he's nonstop.
Yeah,
for sure.
I've never met a dog with the energy of a Vishla. My brother's Vishla, like that thing used to run around the yard for an hour straight. And you get on the jet ski, go out into the lake. It would just swim out into the middle of the lake. It was like, this dog's going to drown itself. We're all going to watch it drown itself. Then it'd get back on shore and just run around the house. It was just like, what fuck is wrong with this dog? Like at some point, it's a sickness. Golf.
All the energy.
Back to golf.
And twice the love, though.
Right.
It's my favorite part of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Mike's brother's Vishla is actually the genesis of all of the Vishla connections.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. So
I had never seen one before his, right? Ryan, was Shiloh the first Vishla you had ever met?
Oh, certainly.
Yeah,
That
it was just like
instantly in love with her. Just
Santa's little helper.
Yeah.
It looked like that, that skinny, wiry dog from The Simpsons. I had seen Whippets and Italian Greyhounds before, but I had never seen a Vizsla. And it was like not as big and as troublesome as a Weimaraner, but just so loving. And yeah, I'm a dog sucker though.
Well, Clancy and I, like through all these trials and tribulations of being an entrepreneur, him and I have had way more conversations and alone time than my wife in those 8 years.
Sure. He understands differently.
Not knowing what the hell the next step's going to be, or, just crazy scared because I just lost, 2 clients that week. And it's just me and the dog talking. Right. Talking, walking, drinking together. Like we've spent a lot of time together. He's my boy. He has been as integral as getting me through those hard times as she's had.
So with the business, you said the Birmingham locale opened up 3 or 4 years ago.
So this February will be my 3rd year there. And literally one day, a guy from Oakland Hills that I knew called me up and was like, I don't know if you're interested. This gym's closing. Here's the guy's number. This is like on literally a Thursday, I think. Call the guy up on Thursday, meet him on a Friday, signed a lease for way more money than I could ever imagine on Monday. Like it was nuts. 5 days.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And I'd love to talk about that a little bit more. Like as I always tell Ryan, like I don't know anything about being an entrepreneur. That's why I like to talk to you guys so I can kind of learn something from you. But that transition from working out of your home office and having zero overhead to having a huge overhead, like what were you bursting out of your home office or what, kind of?
Oh, definitely not. No, I mean, in retrospect, even at the time, it was not the smartest decision, but the biggest reason that I took it on was I was walking into the perfect gym at the perfect place. Yeah. It was the centerpiece it was central to where all my clients were at. Sure. All the country clubs the guys that I was working with were right around there. The guys worked across the street. It was a mile from my house. Like the location, the facility was perfect. Like I work with a lot of guys that are at high-end country clubs. They want a high-end
you couldn't pass it up, right?
And I'd been looking for years, but the commercial real estate at the time was just expensive and the build out was going to be insane. It literally fell in my lap. I'm like, I can't pass this up. I'll deal with the consequences.
Ready or not. Yeah. Like I'm not letting this one go. I got to grab it.
So it was just,
so then what happened 2 months in? Are you freaking out or did it right away?
Oh shit. I was freaking out 2 days ago. I mean, like it's still a crazy experience.
Well, no, that's fair. That's honest of you. But you took some time off to come talk to us today, so you're not
for sure
losing your mind. No. Was it a quick transition or what?
The transition did not happen as I expected. Meet this guy, and he's like, "All right, these are my clients that are still here." They had been slowly transitioning out of his gym for the last 3 months, right? So I take over February 1st. A lot of people. January 1 had already bounced to like the high-end Lifetime that had just come in, and because they knew he was closing down for 6 months. Or
it was just the gym, like machines, treadmills.
No, it was very much a functional fitness, right? It had started as a CrossFit style, right? Classes, tire flipping, that type of stuff.
Which lent itself to a lot of rehab and recovery.
No shit. Yeah. Actually, that's the interesting thing. So
same clients, different gym.
This is the wild thing. I knew the name of this gym, but I only had heard of them through their reputation of hurting people. Right.
Okay.
And then within like the 4 or 5 months preceding this all happening, maybe within 2 or 3 months, I used to stop at Papa Joe's, the grocery store that's right in front of us off of Woodward, on my way home from Oakland Hills to pick up some groceries. And it happened like 3 consecutive Fridays. And I'd pull out the back entrance and drive past this gym, and there'd be nobody in there at Friday at like 5:15. And literally I know because they close at 5:15, but I'd look at that thing and I'm like, this thing is beautiful. I'm like, I'm like, I want a place
It
like
should
this.
be filled.
And all they're doing in there, they're just hurting people in there.
Well, by this, the interesting thing was the last couple years, the owner had totally done a 360. He left the company that he was with because he hated how it was being run. He hated that everybody was getting injured. He knew better himself. And he kind of a very young personal trainer. And he started to progress through several different genres of fitness, namely like the kettlebells and strong first.
Okay.
This guy named Idol Partal, who is,
I'm familiar.
He's he was Conor McGregor's like movement expert.
Kind of like, so you're talking fad fitness, right? Which is something to be cautious of. And maybe we could do a whole episode or expert panel on fad fitness. Yeah, but you're talking like, so this guy as a personal trainer starts to cycle through building a business around these things.
Well, he gets into stuff that's way more functional and it's just way more responsible as a trainer. So, but the reputation that I knew them as was totally different. And had I known who he was, what they had been doing a year earlier, I probably walk in that gym and things are totally different. We probably partner up. He probably doesn't leave. Like, who knows what would have happened? Like, totally wild.
Now he was ready to get out and go back to the family. You said family business.
He was so ready to walk out. He was going to leave 3 months of rent on the table.
Wow.
I'm done.
Okay.
Probably didn't want much to do with him because your impression was based on a prior version, right? Like,
oh, absolutely.
Understandably.
Within 3 days of meeting him, though, I realized like who this guy is and how, like, what he's become. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, damn.
He's just trying to make it happen.
Yeah. Like, we could have been a killer tag team.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not everyone hustling has negative intentions, right? I hate to say that, but like in that world in particular, right? There's a lot of trainers out there who are, and sorry, I'm going to go on a little rant here because Graham, you're the expert, but I understand how people hurt themselves. And
sure,
this whole fad of CrossFit to me is irresponsible. I think there's some benefits to it, but I think it's providing a great deal of work for rehabilitation providers and other realms. So I'll just leave it at that. But like the CrossFit shit, I don't like it.
It can. Like you said, there's a lot of good things that it's done. And it's built a genre that you can charge people 4 times what they were paying for their fitness club before.
Right.
Because there's a group out there that you're going to go to and hang out with. So it's created a, accountability and which has been awesome.
Well, it turns out that's what people need, right? Like
for sure.
When they get sick of scrolling for their approval or scrolling for their, validation, they need somebody to encourage them a little bit. I think that, and I have a similar perspective. I know we all have a similar perspective on like high impact, high weight type lifts, but, I think that sometimes what ends up happening, because I know this has happened for me in my career, is that there's a revenue goal that's attainable, that's not in line with the big picture goal that you set out for yourself, right? And I don't want to explain, and nor am I qualified to explain, what those types of different fad fitnesses are. But as somebody who's kind of a lifelong functional athlete, I see that happen a lot, and I have seen it happen more over the past maybe 36 to 60 months than more previous in my life.
I look at it like, so you go into your regular gym and you talk to 100 guys or 100 clients, members there. 80 of them are dealing with injuries. You go pull 100 runners off the street. 80 of them, right? 4 out of 5 people are walking around with injuries. You go into a CrossFit gym, probably 4 out of 5. The difference is when runners run through their aches and pains, they deal with Achilles tendonitis or their knee swells up on them a little bit. They don't wind up with, often they don't wind up with things that are just exploding on them.
Right.
And that's
full
where
thickness tears.
Full thickness tears.
This is coming from a guy who's very much so not risk averse, right? Like just
that's
listen.
the interesting thing. I'm incredibly risk averse at certain things, and I'll throw that to the wind when it comes to, trying to run a business or do something, that's special. But
When it comes to bulging disc, you have a little bit different perspective.
My wife will be the first, like, I am picking shit up everywhere. Like, don't slip on this, don't slip on that. Yeah. Like, can we turn the...
a man after Mike's own heart, by the way. But
I mean, leave that shit out there. Let him slip. Let him slip.
Listen, for our listeners who don't know this, and you, Graham, who is just getting to know Mike, sometimes he sends me text message pictures with things highlighted and arrows drawn to them about how risky like a particular step might be, or a crack in the pavement. Because this is what he does on his personal weekends.
That's right? Important.
It is important. I appreciate that. I recognize that.
I need to refer to people like Graham, though, to sometimes explain to my clients why, like, sit-ups may not be the answer here. I'm not really sure why their physio has them doing sit-ups. But that's not what you called me to ask. So I'll I'll pass that question on.
Right. I fear that our time is pivoting just a little bit here toward the end of the show. Hey listeners, it's Ryan. I'm here to talk to you about subscribing to the show. If you haven't done so yet, and this is your first episode, well, take your time. Otherwise, if you listen to us time and time again, please take 1 second, go out and subscribe to the show. The reason we ask you to do that is it helps us appear higher on searches and be more popular across the podcast networks. So you're one of the first couple thousand listeners to tune into us, but we want to make sure that everybody else can hear about us.
Just before you close that, or go to the closing, I do want to bug Graham a little bit about, another thing he shares with a lot of our guests, and that, like, we have you on here because we like you in the first place. You're not the standard in your field. What sort of opportunity do you have for, like, mentorship? Like, how are you giving back these days, if I can ask?
I mean, we're always open to anybody coming through and doing internships or, any of the classes for school if they've got to do any shadowing, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because that doesn't just happen naturally, right? Like, no. I mean,
we probably haven't put our name out there enough. In reality, that's probably where I can make the biggest impact, because hopefully I can make an impact on the people that are going to be the next
changing
the next trainers, the next PTs. That type of stuff. And
I would have given anything to have been able to meet an engineer that was in my field. And maybe not even an engineer, but just someone who had not just gone straight to the answer, right? Like your bumps and bruises, man, are, to me, that's what's so valuable about you. I'm sure there's a few other guys doing what you're doing out there, Graham, and they're probably 5 years younger than you. I don't want to talk to those dudes. They haven't tripped once and figured out where the hazards are. And it's a shame. When I think of, like, high school and college, the only regret I ever had is not appreciating the connections, the contacts, like the opportunity that you have at that time. 5 years later, man, it's a little bit harder to go knocking on doors. So, like, Graham, if there's anything I can recommend you, Graham, is, get your company's name out there, man. So kids, and not necessarily just kids, but someone deserves to learn a little bit more from you. You're pretty set up to be a pretty incredible mentor, man. So we're going to check in on you and make sure you're telling someone what to do soon here.
Promise. I appreciate that.
Yeah. If I'm listening to this right now and I'm not saying, oh man, I need to reach out to this guy because I want him to mentor me, or I'm in St. Paul, Minnesota, how do I learn a little bit more about functional movement or the Titleist Performance Institute, these types of things?
My goal is to give as much information away as we can, right? Because that, in a way, it lends credibility. If people see it, they try it, and it makes a difference for them, they're like, awesome, I'm going to come back to this. So, and I've partnered with a few other guys in the last couple months here, and having the opportunity to really bring some awesome information to the masses. Sometimes I take for granted that, I hang around all the people that have very similar viewpoints as me with respects to, how we look at movement and how we want to analyze, somebody who's injured. But in reality, there's hardly any place that I would send my own parents, for physical therapy or my friends, because it's just not good. And we can be a lot better as healthcare professionals, from doctors down to your personal trainers. It's just, everybody could be better. unfortunately it comes down to, I think the money you want to make. Like, are you comfortable making good money? You just can't, right? I mean, the healthcare industry is making billions off of sick people. We can make, hundreds of millions off of them, but like, we don't need to make billions off of them.
Yeah. They may not be sick as long.
For sure. We just need to do a better job of getting that gospel out there, because it's, people need it.
Your bar of common sense is much higher than many. Can I ask, Ryan, before you move on to the contact, can I ask you something real quick, Graham, just from like specific to golf? And I know you're not a golf coach, but with respect to the various videos and information that you'll be sharing, is there something to be gained from people who aren't hurt? In terms of like, they should appreciate please finish that sentence for me.
They just need to appreciate how complicated the golf swing is, right? It's a nose to toes movement. And because of where the ball's at, because it's not moving, it's just way different. There's not the momentum that you have in any other sport, throwing a ball, baseball, or if you're hitting, where you get to kind of pick that leg up and stride into it. I mean, in reality, it's a whole lot harder to make that ball go where you want it to, but a Happy Gilmore swing is a whole lot easier on the body, and it's a lot more efficient to swing the golf club that way.
Yeah.
Right. But you'd look like a fool most of the time. And again, making clean contact and actually getting in the ball in the hole quicker is going to be harder, but it's just a hard movement. Right. And I don't think we appreciate how holistic the golf swing is and how much goes into it. Right. We kind of mentioned earlier, your left ankle can hurt your right shoulder. Mm-hmm. So you need to look at it all. You need to treat it all. You need to be able to appreciate it like that.
If you are somebody who likes to use equipment that you can find anywhere and pays attention to mechanics, I can learn a lot from your Instagram accounts. Would you share with us what those are and kind of how you approach that? You told us about how you don't approach it, which I think is underserving and undersells you a little bit. But how do you approach that, and why might somebody follow that channel out there? Because Instagram's your major spot. It's our major spot.
Yeah. Instagram, everything gets shared to Facebook and Twitter, although I rarely go on to, I don't remember last time I was on Twitter, but yeah, I mean, Instagram, Omni Kinetics, look that up and share, short videos of different workouts or, why a specific exercise or, movement is so important to analyze or add into your repertoire of, a warm up or, or a part of your, your fitness routine.
But I know I saw recently somebody who is very clearly, I'll say older than 45. And you were sharing some of his accomplishments, which I think, included like a personal best swing speed for him and some things like this. And so again, I think that anecdotal fitness advice on social media is kind of a bad idea. But if you are somebody who likes to study the way and, maybe pair some of what you're learning elsewhere through understanding what a functional assessment does to somebody, if you are a personal trainer, how you assess the people that you work with, or really just understanding your own mobility, I think that Omni Kinetics is certainly somewhere to be. I'm going to take a second because I have to mention our stuff, which is, we are available on conventioNOT _podcast. Same, I think, on both Facebook and Twitter. We do the same thing, man. We like push everything out to Facebook and we push everything out to Twitter. But the only one I ever look at is Instagram. I'm sure that'll go away some point. But that's my current spot. So, man, this has flown by. I know that the episode usually ends up somewhere around an hour or so. I'm going to guess that we've recorded a little bit longer than that, but I really appreciate you coming on and dropping the knowledge. There's a lot more below the surface. So I really would encourage everybody to get out there and follow. And if you're in the Metro Detroit area, to look up Omni Kinetics, you do some workshops and you do some things like that. But educating yourself is something that's not so easy in fitness. There's a lot of people who are eager to teach you what to do, but not so many of them will not take your money like I know you do. Not that you offer services for free. That's not the thing. But a lot of people are more eager to sign a contract with you than they are to help you understand what the functions are. And I think that's such an important distinction in the type of work that you do. And
for sure. I mean, it's ultimately whether it's golf or whether it's just, living life, like our goal is to get people moving better so they can be better outside the gym. One of my favorite lines is your fitness should give you more than it takes from you. And that's like the opposite of what, whether it's CrossFit or some of these high intensity gyms are. Like everybody's crawling out of the gym, right? And they do that 5 and 6 times a week. It's like, how do you,
such a good workout. I can't do anything else.
Yeah. Like, how do you live your life? Like I've taken the thought of, or the idea of, it's the minimal effective dose. There's another great trainer out in the Boston area, Mike Boyle. And I'm like, it's brilliant. Like I want my people to want to come to us, to have the energy to come to us, so they can leave out of there and be better. It's not about, crushing them into the ground and making them, exhausted. It's, make them better outside those 4 walls.
Cool.
Graham, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on today, man. Thanks for opening it up, sharing with us. Like I said, your bumps and bruises make you who you are. You got a big old smile on your face today, and sounds like things are going really well for you. We are going to be bugging you again, and hopefully we'll get you on the show. But I would encourage anyone listening, man, like if you care about golf, if you care about the way your body feels, if you especially are in the Metro Detroit area, you should be reaching out to this guy.
Well, thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Same.
Thanks, Graham.